Today we're with Nick Singh, amazing young gentleman that I met through the Rotary. But you have so much stuff going on. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
Tell us about Nick Singh.
Yeah. Well, it depends what angle you want to tap into.
Yeah.
I guess we'll start how I met you. It was talking about the foundation stuff. So
Yeah.
I run my own nonprofit organization. We provide services, resources, and experiences for individuals and families in need. And we do that through partnering and collaborating with other businesses, organizations, professionals. We do that because we want to create a we culture where it's like, well, our foundation is not just doing this experience, but other partners and the community came together.
Like a cumulative effort.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things, the culture that I want to create with the foundation. And then on the other side, we also do that through multimedia. We distribute multimedia engaging content and create inspiring story. Because I love to show people like, hey, like this is what we're doing, right?
Right.
There are ways to promote your nonprofit or even for-profit businesses. I like telling a story.
Yeah.
So for like surprising a kid with a basketball game, which is actually what's coming up this weekend, we want to film his story and just showcase and create an inspiring story and do the whole experience and promote that.
Roll that out. Show other
Exactly.
nonprofits what you're doing and how you can help them promote their nonprofits in
Exactly.
and you're really not pigeonholed into anything. When we spoke, you were like, I connect people to people.
Exactly.
And,
or organizations to organizations.
right. And people will reach out to me and say, hey, this person over here is in need, and the light bulb goes off in your head. You're like, well, let me see what I could do and how can I.
Exactly.
So start from way back.
Yeah.
Like, because that story was like really what grabbed to me was like,
course.
how did you get involved with connecting people to organizations and all that?
Yeah, no, great question. It's kind of where the foundation started, right? Like my personal foundation that got me to my nonprofit. When I was 12 years old, I started volunteering for the Boys and Girls Club of America. It was actually the Boys and Girls Club that really just took me underneath the wing when
Yeah.
I was just kind of, faced my own challenges and stuff like that. And so when they took me underneath the wing, I remember they taught me, the power of love, the power of giving back.
Yeah.
The importance of like I wasn't alone battling some of the challenges that I was battling at that time. There were other individuals that were as well too. So that was my first kind of like reality, like wake up call in a sense.
Right.
Where it was like, wow, I now have people that are walking the same footsteps that I have.
Right.
And now I'm giving an opportunity to help those people. And we can all come together, right? If we all have our own challenges, but we could come together and help one another. So that's where I learned at the age of 12 years old. And, since then, I just gave back for the next few years. When I was 17 years old, I had gotten something that was called the National Youth of the Year Recipient Award. It was a prestigious honor from the Boys and Girls Club of America.
Wow.
And that was when things catapulted from there. Because when that hit social media, the Make-A-Wish Foundation reached out to me. At that time, it was Suffolk County Make-A-Wish. Reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be involved in what they were doing. So graduating high school, I became the youngest wish granter at Suffolk County Make-A-Wish. And then I also became the youngest youth development professional and program director for Boys and Girls Club. So I was basically doing that right at high school.
Wow.
I then started Suffolk Community College.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started joining clubs and attending meetings and stuff, I remember having like this speaking engagement interaction with other students.
Yeah.
And the professor had his friend there who happened to be a New York Yankee executive. And he overheard everything that I was involved in, and he kind of pulled me outside after like class and said, young man, you remind me a lot like myself. Would you like to assist me in a lot of community relations projects? And, you could imagine, I was, 18, 19 at that
Right.
time.
All of a sudden, it's like,
Exactly. And I grew up a Yankee fan, and I was like, wait, like, it was just such a blessing, in disguise. And, and then since then, that's when everything started to trickle.
that really, like keys in on like you don't know when you're giving back with your heart, right? When you're giving to people with no expectation, it really keys in on like you never know when your next opportunity and who you're
Yeah.
going to eventually be connected to that's going to turn into like this full circle moment.
Yeah.
And now it's created like so many different opportunities for you.
Absolutely. I mean, my mindset is still that way, right? Like, I just love that's the main thing for me. Like, I love giving back. Every time I like hear of a story or I see someone struggling, it kind of like wrestles with my spirit, and I'm like, I want to do something.
Right.
But now, right, based on all the years of being able to make such an impact, globally and around just right in our town,
Right.
because of the resources, the network, the experience that I have, now I'm able to help more than I used to 10 years ago, right?
Right.
So it was really cool to see that, yeah, there were full circle moment, but like it just kept happening, right? Like, because even after like doing stuff with the Yankees, I ended up going to other sports and then other professions, like so in the entertainment field and, in just different industries that I was able to see that full circle moment where, of course, dabbling into business and stuff with that, but really the core comes from giving back. And, you hear these stories often where, people build a brand, people build a business, they automate it, they generate money, and then they go out and they use that extra to then give back down the road.
Right.
I kind of did it backwards, right?
Right.
What most people say, like I started everything charitable related, giving back, donating, like working for nonprofits, but through that and through relationship building and networking and just the power of community and spreading positivity, I ended up networking with people, and that's when business started to come from just giving back.
Right. Right.
But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Some people I talk to, they're like they get stuck on, well, if I do this, the kind of what's in it for me mentality.
Yeah.
And I try to tell them, I'm like, forget, like, scrape that off the table. Forget about it, because just the joy of giving back is reward
Priceless.
enough sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right? Most of the time.
Absolutely.
Right? So you met this Yankees guy.
Yep.
And then
from there, he between Boys and Girls Club, Make a Wish, and and doing stuff with him from the Yankees, networking opportunities, meeting other celebrities and athletes from that, building relationship, building rapport, and I was the guy that was really coordinating all of the charitable philanthropic endeavors for athletes for nonprofits.
Okay.
And it started in Long Island, and then it branched off to the city, and then it branched off to the Northeast, and then I started doing things in Florida, and then out on the West Coast, and then it trickled to all the way to the Philippines, to St. Martin, like, and different. And we were actually looking into a lot of other countries and planning that, and then it was the year of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of that year, we had told ourselves, like, in 2020, like, let's go, like, to a few different countries now. And we planned it, and of course, the COVID had other plans.
Yeah.
But, we want to get back to that,
Okay.
and kind of see where that takes off. But, I think right now, starting the nonprofit was something that I wanted to do, because over the years I was, helping other people's nonprofits.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why not just create my own nonprofit, right? Get my own grants and donations, sponsors from my network of people, utilize the funds how I want to use it, which 100% of it will go right back towards the cause and the mission. Tell a story through storytelling. Have our donors and sponsors be a part of the mission as well too. So now they can actually see where their money is going towards.
Right.
And again, the partnering, the collaborating, and basically bridging the gap. So that's where kind of my experience with working with nonprofits kind of segued into, I think it's time that I start my own, which is only about seven months old now. So.
Okay. The marketing end of. Or no, your
the
foundation.
nonprofit, my foundation.
So your foundation is the Nick Singh Foundation.
Yes, it's the Nick Singh Foundation.
And your mission is really, you can say it.
Yeah, we provide the resources, services, experiences for individuals and families in need, from helping families pay rent who are going to get evicted out of their homes with kids, surprising kids with their favorite celebrities and athletes, putting together a Sweet 16 for a 15-year-old, hurricane relief projects. We did donating baseball equipment to kids in Venezuela. This weekend we're surprising a kid at with a basketball experience. Next month we're feeding the homeless, kids and their families in homeless shelters. So I keep it very general, and why I do that is because, again, the important part is we're creating that we culture. We're collaborating with other businesses.
Right.
So if I go to this nonprofit and their mission, which has happened, nonprofits have reached out to me and say, hey, Nick, I'm working on this project, this endeavor. Would you like to partner up with me? Or vice versa. I'll reach out and say, oh, can I help on this end, right? So I like to be a problem solver. Or I like to add to their needs, right?
Okay.
Because all nonprofits or all businesses in the world, they have, there's always that one area where they're lacking, right? It's a need that they need to fulfill,
yep.
Or they need to find a solution to that problem. I want to be that person, or the nonprofit, not I, our team at the Nick Singh Foundation want to be that group of people where they're like, oh, well, a nonprofit reached out and they said, we really need winter clothes for our kids. Right. I'm going to go out to my resources of people and I will fulfill that need, which is what we did, right? We fulfilled all of those winter clothing for their kids at their homeless, at their shelter. Yep. And again, it's a joint effort, because I want to show people that we can all work together, right? Just get everyone.
There's nobody taking accreditation for who did all the work. It's a collaborative effort, and I think that's super important. I think my brother was in nonprofit marketing, so I got turned on to a bunch of nonprofits around Long Island and around the country, and I think just watching some people, they're missing something, right? Because they're struggling so hard to get their nonprofit recognized that they're forgetting about what the actual mission was, and they're also forgetting to tell a story. Right? Storytelling is the
it's
number
crucial.
one
Absolutely.
thing. What makes your nonprofit tick?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you say that because, nonprofits that reach out to me, they would ask, well, we need funding, right? And that's, of course, that's a very important part. But when you ask them, well, what are you doing for branding? What do you do for marketing, right? What story are you telling? Right. They haven't figured that out yet. Right. And I'm like, it's interesting because that's how you get the funding, right?
Right.
It's if you're able to market and brand and storytell appropriately in the way that you can do that to the community, then naturally it's going to gravitate more donors and sponsors and partnerships to you. So that's what we're doing as a foundation. That's why we put the emphasis on creating multimedia engaging content because this weekend, I'll give that example, we're going to create a whole story based on what we're doing. And we're going to cross-collaborate on all our social medias with the necessary sponsors and donors, right?
Right.
And we've already done that. When we did the Sweet 16, all the businesses that were a part of it,
yep.
Not only were they able to volunteer and, of course, be a part of it hands-on, but even on the social media side too, right? They were tagged and being part of all that stuff. Now, again, tagging the necessary partners is one thing, but when you're creating like a beautiful story that's so inspiring, and they're like, wait, the Nick Singh Foundation and blank did this together,
right?
That now creates PR for now both organizations,
right?
And
Absolutely.
That's what I want to be able to.
Absolutely.
The Nick Singh Foundation is the connector for organizations and partners, and we can all come together to help the cause.
Help them tell their story.
Exactly.
It's interesting that when they say we need funding, my immediate question is, well, why do you need funding?
Yeah.
Why? And then go deep on that why. So you need funding to save the puppies, but why are you saving the puppies?
What's the story?
And who show us the last 5 puppies that you saved? You know, my brother had an interesting story. This breast cancer foundation reached out to him, and they're like, John, every year, you know, we get to a certain point, and then we get up to our walk, and we seem to flatline on our walk. And so my brother dug into it, and he's like, all right, well, what are you doing? They're like, well, you know, pink bagels and pink this and pink that. And he's like, but why? And so it really came down to they had to find somebody that they helped.
Yeah.
And they found this woman, and they were like, we need her whole entire story.
The testimonial, basically.
From front to back. And they started pushing that out and increased their revenue just on the walk, like I forget how much percentage.
That's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
I it's a very simple motto that I follow. Back in first grade elementary school, you know, we've all learned this in English. When we read a book, our teachers say, okay, can we write the who, what, where, when, why, and how, right? We should still be applying that into not just the nonprofit space, but also the for-profit businesses as well that we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I do the storytelling, who are we helping and who's partnering up with us on it? What are we trying to accomplish? Where are we doing this? When are we doing this, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people forget the why. And even if they get to the why, yeah, we want to do this for this reason, they don't have a plan of implementation and approach, meaning like they don't have that how. You know, it's like, you know, Nick, I want to feed a lot of homeless people. Okay, well, why? Well, I was homeless one time, and the homeless speaks to my heart and stuff like that. Okay, but how are you going to do it?
Right.
And that's when they freeze up. It's like, okay, well, let me come in. Okay, what are you thinking? Oh, we want to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, with bags and water bottles and snacks and stuff like that. Okay, great. Let's go get a store to sponsor the bread and peanut butter stuff. Let's talk to these bigger companies and tell them what we're doing. Give them that scope of work, right?
Yep.
And say, this is what we're doing. We're a nonprofit organization, 501c3 tax exempt. This is what we're doing. And when you're able to do that and you give them the appropriate pitch with everything involved, then it's like now they can see the full picture.
Yeah.
So I think most people need to understand that why and that how is super, super crucial. And most businesses and most nonprofits, they either forget it or they struggle finding that. Yeah. And again, that's what I want to continue to solve for others.
Okay. Very cool. So you started your own multimedia company outside of the foundation is really like what drove you to say, you know what, I need to start a company to help these nonprofits because I want to keep on helping and make my foundation grow.
Yep.
So there's the why, like the foundation and helping all these other organizations, right? It's like, okay, well, if nobody else is going to create this, I need to create it myself.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. It's all foundations have their mission, who they're targeting and stuff like that. So then I was like, exactly what you said. Yeah. Let me start a nonprofit organization, and let me just be the bridge and the problem solver and the connector for other nonprofits. Now, mind you, we're still going to do our own events and stuff like that. But again, it's with others. You know, I want people to again collaborate because the cross market and network is so it's truly incredible.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at how it all started for me when I was 12. You know what I mean? It's like Boys and Girls Club, Make-A-Wish, and just the Yankees alone. Doing stuff within those three, and then networking and building relationships, and now utilizing resources. You know, hey Nick, if you need a hairdresser or a videographer or a restaurant or food or catering, whatever it is, I now have that in my mental CRM, right?
Yeah.
CRM of like, okay.
Yeah, mental database.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if I know I need catering because we're putting together a surprise birthday party for an individual who's battling, an illness or a challenge, I can now reach out to so-and-so.
Yeah.
The power of networking, the power of cross-collaborating, that's how it all started for me.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to say that I can now do that through a foundation.
Right.
And that's essentially the goal. Really, is to create that we culture, to show transparency that all of our fundings are being given out to the cause. And
it's amazing that one spark back when you were 12, like, and you named some names at our Rotary meeting that I was just like, really?
Yeah.
This guy's been working with these like real celebrity level people you named, and it started from that one spark.
One spark, yeah, and again, like, I could sit here and give you a list of Yankee legends, from Hall of Famers to even the guys that are playing on the field right now that I've had the opportunity to work with, and it wasn't even past the Yankees, the Mets, the Jets, the Giants. Knicks players in the past as well, to hockey players and stuff. And that even branched out to music artists, content creators and influencers, movie actors and actresses, so even stuff like that. Like, I've worked with a lot of them. And I think the one thing that helped me is they're people. They also have needs. They also have problems that need to get solved, right? So how do I come in and still have that mentality? Yeah, they have succeeded at their profession at such a high level, right? And of course in the public eye, which is what garners them all that publicity and stuff. But that was it. That's the difference between you and I and like a huge athlete or a celebrity, right? So it's like, but that doesn't take away, like, they still have needs and wants, and of course challenges that they face. I've definitely had stories with a lot of athletes where I would say, like, hey, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Really quick story is a guy like the name of Mariano Rivera, right? I met him on numerous of occasions, and there was an event one time. It was like, let's just say I met him like 6 or 7 times. Some point in the middle of that, there was an event, and signing autographs, taking photos with everyone, etc. And I wasn't really looking for that, right? I actually told his security guard, like, coming up to him, and he immediately was like, Mariano's not doing any more autographs. I was like, actually, no, I don't even want any of that. And then the security guard was like, well, what are you here for? I was like, could you just pass a quick message? And he was like, of course. And I was like, could you let Mariano know that Bernie Williams and I met Bernie before that, and we had done a project. And when I was mentioning to Bernie Williams the connection that I had with musical instruments, right? Because I knew Bernie was just a music head. Mm-hmm. Bernie also mentioned, he was like, who you should talk to? You should talk to Mariano, because he's building a church and he needs some things happening in his church. So I was like, perfect. Like, I have no problem doing that. So I spoke to the security guard. After that happened, I told him, just pass that along. And he looked at me with a puzzled face, like, yeah, okay. As I hang around for the event, and as I'm leaving, Mariano's security guard comes to me, and we started talking. And Mariano had mentioned, like, talking to me about it. So I told him, and I was like, what's the best way that I can stay in contact with you? Because I know celebrities, personal contact is one thing. Yeah. And kind of get this into motion, right? How does this look for you? And I think just his reaction alone spoke volume, because you're talking to a man who just probably took 500 autographs and photos for people, but I wasn't even there for that. Right. I was there for, how can I serve him, right? And because he serves a lot of people, so now how can I serve him, and how can and that was his church and what he needed. Yeah. Unfortunately, if anyone ever sees this, but not ever sees this, but when they see it from his organization and stuff, that never happened, like the actual, and I'll say that too because I think we spoke like a month or two again before the pandemic. And then communications kind of got lost, and I wasn't talking to him directly. I was talking to like his internal people at his church, and we were working on that, and then we were trying to get some instruments. We were talking, and then of course the whole world shut down, and so that obviously came to a point. But Mariano, if you do see this,
I'm gonna have to tag Mariano when I post this on Instagram.
Yeah, I would love to obviously be a blessing to Mariano or any athlete that needs help for their foundation or their church or businesses or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But the point of that story was, all the athletes that I've worked with, it's how can I serve you?
Right.
You know, and that's what all of my conversations, every single one of them, all how can I serve you? And that's how I've been able to build that relationship.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't doing, and it wasn't even my mindset. I wasn't like, oh, like let me try to serve them to get their contacts. No, it just happened naturally, right?
Right.
And just naturally, you know, I built lots of strong relationships with a lot of public figures that, you know, that I've worked together and hopefully continue to work together on projects to make the world a better place.
You know, I think when I hear you talk, I think really successful business owners and people like yourself, they do two things really well. They listen and they ask, how can I help you? Right? How can I serve you? And then they listen to what that person needs. And then, three things. Most importantly, then they act on that, and that just blossoms into other opportunities, even in business or in the nonprofit sector.
Absolutely, yeah, that's super important, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's actively listening, because now you're showing that individual that you're giving them time, you're paying attention to them,
Yeah.
right? And then of course it's how do I serve you? How can I help? How can I add value to what you're doing, right? And again, a lot of people can even get there, but it's again the action. You know, putting the action to the words that you said, and keep it that consistent as well too.
Right.
You know, it's super important. Again, that's all relationship building.
Yeah.
You know, and I wish more people understood that. You know, that's one of the biggest things that you know, I hope that with the any business that I'm working on, and even nonprofit stuff, that people understand that, you know, we could win together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we can, you know, if you
in for profit or nonprofit.
Exactly.
When you just do things for people because they have a need with no expectation, like people remember that.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't, for me, it doesn't get tiresome to help somebody, because I know it's like this is the way the world is supposed to turn.
Yeah, and it's you know, you say that, and I think about the times where I've actually like really like helped someone, but like on a pretty large scale.
Yeah.
And actually, even at a small scale, yeah, I'll pay for your groceries.
Yeah.
Or I remember one time someone was like, yeah, I really need my gas man, telling me the story, and I just need $5 if you have $5, right?
Yeah.
For a car, and I lost my car, whatever. And then I filled up his tank instead of just giving him $5, right? And you know, those are the little things, but like when you see their reactions, they're almost like puzzled, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, are you kidding me? Right? You pay for someone's groceries, like what? It's almost like why isn't that normal? You know what I mean? Like they look at those
Society.
things. Exactly. They look at those things as so confused, and I'm like, but isn't that supposed to be the norm? And that's what I'm trying to create, where it's like, it doesn't hurt to help people. Now, mind you, you don't have to give people. People always think that, oh, Nick, but I don't have enough money to give and all that stuff. I need help myself. People underestimate a simple prayer for someone, a hug, just time to chat, right? Like, giving back is free at the end of the day. Like, you can give back in so many ways. You don't have to give money. You don't have to have an own organization like myself. You don't have to do any of that stuff.
Right.
You could just simply say, I'm going to go over to my neighbor because I know they're struggling, and I'm going to help them do the laundry, right?
Yeah.
Give back your time, right?
Yeah.
Or a friend is struggling. You know, hop on a call with them for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, giving them your time, being a friend to them, right? Those are all ways of giving back, and I think people underestimate that power of those things.
Right.
Because it goes such a long way. And again, that's what I started to do when I was younger too. Where I was like, well, I don't have money and I need help myself.
Yeah.
But let me be a good friend to people. Let me be a good advocate. Let me be a great volunteer to this organization, to this cause.
Right.
And the littlest things will go such a long way for someone, and people don't realize that, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm sure down the road, or even starting now, like I want to make sure that like I want to even create team members to where it's like, let's even do like a good deed a day. A good deed a day goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just blessing someone however you can, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
I think people miss the benefit is when you do a good deed for somebody, it really makes you feel good, right?
yeah,
That's a benefit,
absolutely.
right? You don't have, it doesn't have to be monetary value. It doesn't have to be like, well, now they owe me, anything like. It makes you feel good when you do something good for somebody else.
You also find healing in that. And I'll give you an example too, like, personal challenges that I may have faced. I've actually came across other people down the road who's also find similar patterns to that or similar challenges to that. And as you're giving advice and you're talking to that individual, helping them out, oftentimes you find healing within yourself.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I always like tell people, and I'm telling you, I'm an advocate of that because, like I remember helping individuals with certain things, and I'm like, wow, like I think I was just talking to myself too when I was giving them that advice or guidance, and it's
I think I just solved my own problems.
Right? And it's like it doesn't have to be rocket science, and giving back doesn't, and I think it's just because, again, society and social media and what it's turned out, it's, people see the mega videos of people giving away $1 million and a car and all these feeding 100,000 homeless, all that stuff. Yeah. And it's like, you feed one homeless person, you're making a difference.
Right.
Because you're making a difference for them. People always want to say, like, I want to change this world. I was like, but one of my favorite things is, my motto is, instead of trying to change the world, just change the world for that one person and keep doing that.
Right.
So when you change the world for that one person, you're essentially changing the world, right?
Yeah, it's a compound effect.
Exactly. Yeah. And so,
and again, people, the person that you're helping remembers also, and then, down the road, like the Yankee guy goes, you remind me of me when I was younger.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So people remember, when I was younger, somebody helped me out. When I was down and out, somebody helped me out. Now it's my time to pay it forward.
Exactly. And spread awareness and spread kindness, creating that domino effect.
Yeah.
I'll never forget one of my first social media posts, man, this was 7 years ago. I wrote a story about a homeless man, and I provided him with some necessities that he needed. And I kind of wrote, talk about storytelling, and wrote that story, right? But in the story, I specifically said, people, underestimate the simple, kind gestures. So let's go out there and, spread that love, spread that kindness.
Right.
When I posted that, and mind you, this is when, Instagram was, just first out and, not too many people were on it. The next day, I remember, I was in high school, so the next day, I remember a few, of my friends and people at the school saw the post, and they wanted to act on that now. And by the end of the day, I think I had about 12 or 14 of my friends saying that they want to now pay it forward. So, my friend bought lunch for the firefighters at his local fire department. Another friend volunteered their time at another organization. So, and that all stemmed from what? A simple post,
Yeah.
And it was and it was a post about one person that I helped,
Yeah.
But notice how that exponentially grew, from that. So it was incredible.
Yeah. How can people help you, or get a hold of your foundation, or volunteer, or what do you need?
Yeah, no, for sure. So we need a lot of money. No, I'm joking. We all need a lot of money, but again, I mentioned to you that we're fairly new. So website and website's going to be out very soon. Right now, everything is on Instagram. So my personal Instagram is Nick Singh 7, and the foundation page is the Nick Singh Foundation. You can see all of our work on there, and from there it'll show you how you can kind of donate and volunteer. I'll put up donation, fundraising opportunities, and ways that you can help out on any level, right?
Right.
The biggest thing is just to grow the team, because as I told you, we grow the team and we market and brand appropriately. The funding will come. So if you're a videographer, brand specialist, if there are certain things that I talked about that you're like, wait, I have some cool ideas for what Nick is doing, definitely reach out to me on social media, and let's kind of pick each other's brain and see how we can kind of work together. So Instagram is probably the best way right now until we, of course, release our website.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate
it. Amazing stories.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Looking forward to creating more.